Hey, I'm Pep, and this is a Pep Talk. Now today, we're going to talk about the mind. Now if you've played this before, you might be thinking, well, this is a cooperative game, so I probably don't really want to learn how to win at it or to do better, just playing with my group, having fun. And you're kind of right. This video isn't necessarily for people who already have a group that they're playing with and everyone's doing fine, or on top of that, people who haven't even played the game before. Because if 4 of you haven't played the game before and just want to crack it open and try playing, I think you're going to learn most of these things naturally, and I think you're going to have a good time. That being said, this video is more for the people who maybe jumped into a group and that group really likes this game, but they haven't played it before, or they've played a few times but haven't done so well. Because fitting into a new group, especially in a cooperative style game, can be pretty difficult. Now, just in case you're watching this and haven't played the mind before, the point of the game is essentially to play cards in order from 1 to 100. Now the thing is, you have to play with your hands hidden, and on top of that, you can't really communicate. So you're really playing based on feeling and reading body language and that kind of thing. But you're new to this, so what is and isn't okay? Well, this is one of those games where the rules aren't extremely clear on some things, and people like to play things certain ways. So let's go through some of those yeses and nos. A big no, for example, would be just saying what number you have, or even, going to show that you have 24. In a similar way, mouthing the words also aren't okay, because it's clear what I'm trying to say, although maybe it isn't. Maybe you're not good at reading lips. Either way, though, any attempt to directly tell people the exact number that you have is clearly not okay. And if you're playing with people who are willing to do that, then this isn't really a game. It's not even really an activity. It's just you telling each other what number you're playing. But there's some more gray areas, because how much people are willing to physically emote depends on the player group. So if I'm trying to show that I don't have a card to play soon, maybe I lean back. Leaning back a little bit, just becoming more relaxed is fine, and in fact it's probably natural. But what some people do is they'll lean really far back, or they'll just try to get away from the table to show that, I'm not playing things anytime soon. When you start getting into that, I can see why some people might be uncomfortable. You're giving more information than the game probably intends. Another thing I see people commonly do is when they're getting ready to play something, they'll shift the cards in their hand. Maybe they'll start to pull it forward. I don't personally like when it's happening in the hand. If I were to do this, it's giving the impression that something's probably going to need to be played soon. And if you were doing it differently, I could, for example, push this one up here, this one up there, and then stick these two like this. Now, if I'm holding my hand like this, not that you would automatically assume this, but the way I see it, if I were to see a hand like that, it would mean really high card, medium high card, 2 cards that are close together, which is what my hand is. Now, is that okay? Again, I don't think so. So that's why I don't like manipulation of the physical hand. But something that people do, and I think is okay, is when it's getting close to time for you to play your card, you take it into your separate hand and you slowly start to move it in towards the center. And that can give the impression that you're trying to play it, but you're giving everyone else a chance. So with that being said, that's pretty much the majority of ways I've seen, at least, that people will try to hint things. And let's talk about why you do that. Especially, again, if you're playing this, not necessarily for the first time, but you're just new to the game in general. See, a lot of people have subconscious things that they'll do in a game like this. One of which is just a certain speed and a certain rhythm that they'll play by. It's not necessarily that they're ticking a clock in their head, but, odds are they probably wait approximately the same amount of time to play certain numbers. They're used to having a bit of a gap. If you play something too quick, they'll be like, whoa, that was fast. Or if you take too long, they might say, oh, that was pretty slow to play that. And the thing I was talking about earlier of slowly putting the card in is a good way to keep up with people. You know, if you're sliding the card in, it's, again, giving people a moment in order to decide whether or not they want to play something. Because the thing is, if you have a number, let's say the game is just beginning, and you have the number 2. Well, you don't just want to immediately play that 2, because there's a chance someone actually has the 1. So what you want to do is very quickly come in and be ready, but don't actually play it. And then people know, well, he obviously has a 2 or a 3 or something. He doesn't have the 1, or else he'd just flip it. Now the same thing happens whenever you have higher numbers. Let's say you're at 30 and somebody has a 33 in hand. Well, you don't, again, just want to immediately play it, but you want to give that quick moment so that someone can play something in between if they have it. And it slows the game down for a second and gives people a chance to react. A lot of people will also kind of reset the game. If you and someone else try to put a card in at the same time, they'll just say, okay, let's go back to where we were and like kind of start again and play it a little slower, you know? But something else to think about is the game also has the ninja stars. If you're really getting to a spot where you're not sure who should play first, this is a really good way to solve that problem. Now, a problem I have seen a lot, not even with new players, with experienced players in the game, is they refuse to use these. They say, oh no, I think we can do it without it. But that doesn't make any sense. It's a game mechanic, it's a part of the game. If you lose and have 2 ninja stars, that's not something to be proud of, that's the opposite. If you're playing a worker placement and you have 4 workers to use, do you use only 3 of them because you didn't actually need that 4th, so you just kind of don't use it every round? No, it's part of the game. Use it, be willing to use it, don't lose while having ninja stars. Especially if the other players at the table want to use it. Don't be the person who tries to win the game without them. That's not how the game works. They're here for a reason. But okay, so that's how you play your own cards. But how do you figure out what else everyone else has? Well, the thing is, as I mentioned before, people tend to have some sort of body language that they use. Now, sometimes it's on purpose, you know, when they do the lean backs and kind of like, not necessarily put their hand on the table because that's usually a faux pas, but more like lower their hand, you know, take a drink, something. They're trying to signal. But some people do it subconsciously. And what I am going to suggest to you is that if you're going to do anything to signal what your hand is to other players, do it that way, subconsciously. Consciously do it subconsciously, you know? The point is, be natural. Because the problem with doing the lean back and the acting like you don't need to play anytime soon and all that is that when you're exaggerating it, it can come across as worse than it is. You know, if someone leans way back or like pushes their chair away from the table, to me, I would assume that means they have like 97, 98, 99, 100, something like that. But for them, it maybe only means they have an 80. So you get this picture in your head because they're unnatural about it as to what you think they have. Whereas if they are natural with it, you will just naturally notice this. Because if you watch what people are looking at a lot of times, it'll help you figure this out. For example, if someone's looking at their hand and not at what's being played, odds are they're pretty far ahead on number. They don't really have to worry about the exact moment. They might look up each time a card is played and then just kind of go back to looking at their hand. Or looking into nowhere or nothing because they know they don't have to think about it. On the other hand, if you see someone who's, you know, like nervously holding the cards and looking up and down and up and down and up and down and like maybe like touching one over and over, odds are that person is getting ready to play something because they probably have lower cards that are closer together. If you have 2 cards in a row, odds are they'll hold them like in a chunk. You know, like these cards are loose, but these ones are together because this is a 58 and a 59. So I want to make sure that these are together because when I go to play them, you know, you're going to go bop, bop, and try to play both at once. Which is a good reason, again, to pause and wait, because if someone needs to play 2 in a row, they can't actually put them down together. They have to go 1, 2. So if you try to like throw a card in the middle, well, you're just going to lose a life. But yeah, so reading body language can be very important in a game like this. Which is why, as I said, I think it's better to act natural and to let your natural body language tell people what's going on rather than using the fake body language, because A, it probably is against the intent of the rules for you to do a bunch of faked body movements to show what you do or don't have. And B, I honestly think, as I said, that it just makes it worse. It makes it harder to figure it out. If you're going out of your way to try to hint at what it is you have, then I think in general you're going against the spirit of the game. Now, the other thing to mention, because the point of this video is to be able to slip into a group that's already playing and have fun and do well. Well, the thing is, I've mostly talked about how to do well, but having fun is important too. So those things that I've been telling you about, well, maybe you go and play with a group who does those things, those exaggerated movements, because I've played that way before. It is fun. When everyone starts leaning back, you kind of almost get into like a who can lean back the furthest contest, you know. The guy with the 80 leans back a little and the guy with the 90 leans back a lot. But then like another guy just like falls onto the floor because he leans back so far because of the 100 that he has. And then after someone else plays a card, she quickly realizes that everyone was really over-exaggerating because she jumped to 50 and everyone's like, what? No, I only had like a 28. It's like, why were you leaning back with a 28? So you can have a lot of fun playing that way. So when jumping in with a new group, it's probably a good idea to gauge how they're playing, what kind of speed they're using, what kind of body movements they're using. Because just fitting in with the group is, in a cooperative game, usually the easiest way to make the game go well. And sometimes having fun can be more important than following the rules to a T. And on the topic of having fun, for my last point, I'm going to switch away to not having fun. Now, thing is, before I tell you this, I want to preface this with it might ruin your game. Like to think of the game this way, it might literally ruin your game. So if you're honestly playing the game a lot and you're having fun, maybe this is where you stop. So you know, hey, thanks for watching. This has been the Pep Talk for the mind. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Live free, game hard, all that stuff. I'm going to do 2 outros in this, aren't I? Okay, well, chances are you stuck around because when people tell you this will ruin it for you, they usually stick around to listen anyway. So you've been warned. Spoilers, I guess. Okay. Whenever you're playing the game, sometimes you start to notice that you kind of have an internal timer. Like I mentioned before, you know, people kind of wait about the same amount of time. Well, the thing is, on top of having an internal timer, there is an external timer that we all use day by day, and that is seconds. So a way you can play this game, and as long as you're doing it alone, it's usually fine, is just to literally count seconds. If you do that, every round of the game will take approximately 1 minute and 40 seconds. Because in your head, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and just play the cards as you would reach that time. I'm technically counting a little bit faster here. But the thing is, if everybody went into the game with that exact same mindset, that they're going to count up the seconds and just play the cards as that happens, there's not really going to be any mistakes made. There might be because someone's counting is a little bit off. But the main reason I noticed this was because at one point I played with a clock ticking in the background. And as I was playing, I kind of noticed the clock ticking, and I noticed about how long it was taking for me to play cards and realized that I was basically playing on a minute timer. Well, 1 minute and 40 seconds, you know, playing second by second. And so the ticking of the clock really got me into the rhythm. But again, if you're doing this alone, maybe people won't even notice and it won't matter. But if you tell other people at the table this fact, the idea that you could just play second by second, it kind of ruins the game. You're not really playing the game anymore. But at the same time, once you know that, what do? Purposely not count second by second? Like, you know to play that way, and how do you get rid of that? So if everyone at the table knows how to play that way, how do you stop? How do you just not count second by second? It's tough. At that point, you're almost purposely counting out of time in order to, I guess, lose. And of course, some people's timers are much faster. They probably do like 2 cards per second kind of thing. But I don't generally see games going that quickly. Usually a game, if anything, will take longer. People go more like 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, kind of double up on the time and then play things. Either way, if this has ruined your game, I'm sorry, but the main thing I want to say in regards to that is if you figure this out yourself, or you learn because of just now, don't tell other people at the table. There is probably like an 80% chance that it will literally ruin the game for your group. So don't mention the timer thing. If you know it, that's neat. Count in your head. Maybe you can even try to keep track of approximately how fast other people are playing cards and notice that they're playing on the same timer. Maybe you all just agree to it. Because that's the thing with a game like this. If you have signals that you're using essentially, then if everybody pre-agrees to the signals, you're cheating. If you pre-agree that this means this and this means this and that means that, then yeah, you're essentially cheating. If everyone figures it out naturally, I guess you're not cheating. It's really hard to say. With rules being kind of ambiguous as they are, it's complicated. But that's why it's important when you play a game like this, I think, to focus on having fun, because generally, I think most people will agree, it is a fun game. And it is a challenging game, as long as you don't purposely try to cheat. So don't! Anyway, that's been my pep talk. If you have any questions or comments, or just want to talk about times when you've played the mind and maybe some crazy situations that came up, let me know in the comments below, and I'll probably reply to you, because I like replying to people. Also, if you have a specific game that you'd like to see a pep talk on, ask below. Maybe you bringing it up will be the push I need to do that particular game. Otherwise, thanks for watching. And as always, live free, game hard. YOLO, say oh no. Isolate yourself and just roll safe.